Hey YouTube, it's Brandon from VK Milling and Hardwoods again with another quick video. It's bright and sunny in East Tennessee today. Unfortunately though, it's like in the 40s, so that's okay. It means we can get out there and we can work pretty hard and not have to sweat that much. We're probably going to get a lot done today. But I wanted to do a quick video on some parts issues for these Wood-Mizer sawmills. Last week, someone posted in one of the Wood-Mizer groups on Facebook a complaint about how the grease fittings on, I think they had an LT35, it might have been an LT40, but it doesn't really matter. I think they're the same things. But their complaint was that the grease fittings are press fit grease fittings, not screw-in grease fittings. And so, of course, I replied back with my reasoning, but then I thought, well, why don't I just go ahead and do a video of it since, well, I lost one yesterday and I had to pick up some more. So first, let me say this. In general, screw-in grease fittings are superior to press fit grease fittings in terms of staying where they're supposed to and not coming out. However, with these sawmills, you have oddly shaped logs. You have logs that have limb nubs sticking out and knots and things like that, and they catch. They do all the time catch on side supports and clamp arms and you name it. And the fitting that I most commonly lose, and it has happened 3 or 4 times, I think, is the fitting, the grease fitting, or grease zerk, on the log turner. Because of where it sits and how you operate it, there are things that will catch on those grease zerks, and it'll rip them out. There's 2 of them, one on either side of the arm, and I've had to replace them in the past. Well, here's the reason why the press fit are more superior in this particular instance than the screw-in. And that is, if something catches that grease fitting and applies enough force to it to rip it out of there and it's press fit, then it's not a big deal. Either you find the grease fitting that came out, or you have some spares, you tap a new one back into place, and you're up and running in a minute, 2 minutes tops. If it were screw-in, and my nose itches, if it were screw-in and something hit it with enough force that it would cause it to come out of there, you run into one of 2 issues, or possibly both. And that is, either it strips the threads out of that hole that's in the log turning arm, in which case now you've got to re-tap that hole to get a fitting to go back in there, or it snaps the fitting off, which is, in my opinion, far worse. Because if it snaps that fitting off, well, now you've got to drill that fitting out of there, or try to use a screw extractor set to get that fitting out, and then hope that the threads aren't damaged and put a new one in. But in this instance, you know, one pops out, you stick a new one on there, you tap it into place, you pump some grease in, you're back up and running. So that's my reasoning as to why I think the press fit in this particular scenario is actually better than the screw-in grease fitting. Second, for those of you that have a Fastenal located near you, Fastenal is a great place to get some of the spare parts that you need for the mill, some of the things that wear out and break down. In this instance, I had to get grease fittings this morning to replace the one that popped out. Now, if you look at the Wood-Mizer website, the 3/16 press fit grease fittings are 66 cents each. That's not a horrible price, but they're 66 cents, plus you have to pay sales tax, plus you have to pay for shipping. And so all in, it can cost you, if you're ordering one, it could cost you 10, 12, 15 bucks. So you might as well order a bunch of them at one time. Versus at Fastenal, a pack of 5 of these grease fittings is $2. I think it was $2.36 or something like that. It equates out to about 46, 47 cents each on these. Pack of 5, $2. Yes, I have to pay sales tax, but I don't have to pay shipping. And the Fastenal is quite literally right across the street from my house. The other thing that I tend to get, I'm going to drop these so I can go get the other part. The other thing that I get from Fastenal as well, that you might as well have on hand, that clearly is not sitting inside of that toolbox.
Which toolbox would they be in then?
Oh. Well, crap. Where, oh, where, oh, where have you gone? It would probably be more beneficial. There they are. It would probably be more beneficial for these videos if I actually had my act together and had everything out that I wanted to show you. But one of the things that I fairly commonly actually have to replace are the bearings in my blade guide rollers. Each blade guide roller has 2 bearings in it. And this is the standard blade guide rollers, not the high performance, so to make that clear. But each one of the guide rollers has 2 bearings. Now, I have tried the Wood-Mizer bearings, and I have tried the Fastenal bearings. The Wood-Mizer bearings have a metal seal right here where you see this black, versus the Fastenal, which are plastic. But the reality of the situation is that I don't think there's really a big difference in how long they last. Where you really notice the difference is when you go to replace them. Wood-Mizer sells these at like $7, $7.40 something a piece. Whereas I get these from Fastenal for, I think, $2.30 a piece or something like that. So, and when I go to replace the bearings, I replace all 4 of them. Just do all 4. I don't have to worry about it again for a while. Any of the ones that are left that are good, I stash in the toolbox. Any of the ones that are bad, I chuck them, of course. So, for a replacement of 4 is less than $10 for Fastenal for me. Replacement of 4 from Wood-Mizer is going to be like 28 and change, 29, somewhere right in there, plus the tax, plus the shipping. Now, that being said, I can address something else here, and that is for several years as my blade lubricant, I was running a mixture of water, dish soap, and pine salt. And I don't know if I was running incorrect blade tension or if the water, the dish soap, and the pine salt as a steady stream coming out was causing it, but I was wearing out bearings left and right. I would go through and have to replace at least the idle side, usually all 4 bearings, about every 3 or 4 months. Since I've made the switch to diesel, and it's not a steady stream coming out, it's a couple of drips towards the end of a cut, and then it's done. I haven't had to replace these since. Now, there is one bearing that's starting to make some noise on the idle side. And I just ordered a set of these bearings from Fastenal. I have 3 sitting here. And like I said, if I'm going to replace them, I'm going to do all 4 at the same time. It alleviates some headache. So I ordered, 5 of them from Fastenal, which gives me 2 sets of bearings, and still spent less money for 2 sets of bearings than what it would cost from Wood-Mizer for 1 set of bearings. Now, don't get me wrong. The Wood-Mizer bearings may last longer because they're metal sealed. But I feel like what generally gives out is the bearing on the inside, the balls themselves, not the outside of the bearing. So with having switched to diesel, I'm not entirely sure that is going to help solve the problem. But in the last 4 months of using diesel, I've only had 1 bearing start to give me a little bit of a squeal. Whereas I know with using the water, the dish soap, and the pine sol as a steady stream coming out, I would have already had to replace them and be approaching replacing them again. Now, on my sawmill, on the LT35, with the standard blade guide rollers, the bearings, the size is R8 to RS. That's the bearing size. And the grease Zerks are press fit 3/16 inch grease Zerks. So that'll save you a little bit of time from having to look it up on the Wood-Mizer site and figure out which bearings they are. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. So we'll see you on the next one. Stay safe and have fun.